This meeting is now in session at 6:01 p.m. We're Thursday, April the 6th, 2023, and we're conducting this meeting in the Carrabelle City Hall chambers. We're running a little bit late because we just closed up a workshop. We'll open with the prayer by Commissioner Millender, and then I will lead the Pledge of Allegiance. Please stand.
Let us pray. Most glorious and gracious Heavenly Father, again we come before you and we thank you for the many blessings and gifts that you have bestowed upon us every day. And again we are here gathered tonight in this room to conduct good and wholesome and productive business for our citizens here in Carrabelle. Please provide us with the wisdom and guidance that we so desperately need. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. All right. Thank you all for silencing your phones. If you want to speak during public comment, or any during the discussion of any portion on this on the agenda items, you'll need to complete a speaker card, and your comments are kept at a maximum of 3 minutes with a one-time visit to the podium. And loud outbursts are not allowed from your seats. You must come to the podium. So on the agenda, first up we have the consent agenda for the March 2nd, 2023 Commission regular meeting minutes and the March 9th, 2023 City Commission special meeting minutes and our attorney's invoices for February. If everyone had a chance to review, we'll entertain a motion.
Motion to approve.
Okay. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, and that motion is by Commissioner Millender, second by Commissioner Gray. Is there any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? And that motion carries. All right, next up on the agenda is public comment. This is for items that are not on the agenda, but we will not be taking action on. Okay, I see Ms. Keisha has one item, one. Okay, tell us your name, please.
My name is Daylene Siegert, and I actually own the upholstery shop in town that graciously you let me lease the little building, which I absolutely love. I just want to make a comment about the family. Is it the Family Dollar? Family Dollar, not the Dollar General. I just think it's a travesty that it's going where it's going. I don't think that it's bad that it's coming to this community, but on the street that it's going, it just, the feel of Carrabelle is amazing. That's what drew my husband and I down here. It is so absolutely unique. I absolutely love it here. And I just think it's a shame. That's all I wanted to say.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Daylene. All right, and, okay. Do we have any other public comment? Any other public comment? All right, then we will move to commissioners' reports. Commissioner Walden?
I have nothing.
Okay, Commissioner Brown?
I do. Bear with me. On March 30th, I attended the March Appalachia Regional Planning Council Board meeting in Tallahassee, and I'm excited to report on the Franklin 98 Living Shoreline Resiliency Project. The ARPC has successfully sourced contractors for the project. Gulf Corps of the Forgotten Coast, based in Franklin County, is the contractor responsible for the planting portion of the restoration process. And Live Flyer Inc. from Carrabelle was selected as the contractor for the hard bottom reef materials that will be placed at the selected project sites. And the installment of those reef materials will take place in late spring to summer. The Franklin Franklin County Board of County Commissioners has asked our state representatives to work in this legislative session to modify how Franklin County can use its TDC tax. With the added visitors to our small and fiscally constrained county comes additional stress on our resources and infrastructure. For this reason, we need to use more of the TDC taxes for infrastructure elements, and I would like to request that the city, with the commission's support, send an email to Representative Jason Schoaf and his aides and Senator Corey Simon and his aides. And I'm happy to provide all the necessary contact information and an example email to our city administrator if you all approve that we send this letter of support.
Would you like to motion for a letter of support?
I would like to
Okay.
motion for a letter of support.
Okay.
Second.
Okay, we have that motion by Commissioner Brown, second by Commissioner Millender to send a letter of support from the city to Representative Schoaf regarding the increase of the 10% TDC taxes. Excuse me. Go
It's
ahead.
not an increase of the taxes. It's to allow the TDC tax
use
money to use for infrastructure.
More than 10%. Right now, they can only use 10% of the income.
Okay, I see what you're saying, yes.
Yes,
I
they're-
didn't want people to think we're raising the
Right,
tax.
no. The TDC tax is 3%. And right now, they can only use 10% of their income on infrastructure and beach rehab. So what they want to do is be able for our lower income communities to be able to use more of a percentage of the tax revenues on infrastructure and beach improvements. When you're a lower income community, you can only use 10%. The TDCs that operate in the big areas like Daytona Beach and earn $10 million a year, they can spend a lot of money on their infrastructure, and they're not restricted to the 10% rule. So, okay, we have that motion by Commissioner Brown, second by Commissioner Millender. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? And that motion carries.
Just one more thing. Saturday, April 22nd, the Carrabelle Chamber of Commerce is hosting the 32nd Annual Carrabelle Riverfront Festival in downtown Carrabelle from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. This is a free event full of family-friendly activities, live music, entertainment, unique arts and craft vendors, and delicious food. This year, there's also a kids' nautical-themed costume contest. Also, the Carrabelle History Museum will be hosting their Avenue B Expo featuring natural resource experts, regional history exhibits, live animals, and educational activities and displays. So I hope all of you can join us. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Millender.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Mine's more of a informational type thing to the board. Last couple days, and I have to admit that it's really just clicked with me in the last few days or the last week or so since the activity has started downtown with the construction or the land work that's going on, that we have, and I went down and counted them this morning, and Keisha has them mapped out, and I've talked with Courtney, but for you information purposes, we have 4 huge trees up against the building of the post office that I'm afraid is going to do substantial damage to the foundation, and to the one of them is really big, and it's actually up against the building. And I've just information purposes to the board here, I've asked Courtney and had discussion with her about it. We need to look at that and see if we can do something before we receive extensive damage to that post office.
Well, that's in the CRA district, so let's talk about that, if you
At
don't
the
mind.
CRA
And
meeting.
we have maintenance money in there, in that budget, and we might be able to take care of it that way.
And that's the reason why I just wanted to give it as an informational type thing to the other board members. So,
Okay, very good.
That's all I have.
All right, let me write that down. Trees at post office. Okay, Commissioner, is that all? Commissioner
ma'am.
Melander? Okay. Commissioner Gray?
I do not have anything this time.
Okay, Mine's a little scattered. I've been very busy this week. I've attended legislative days up at the Capitol, and I've attended some Florida League of Mayors workshops up there in the Board of Directors. I sit on the Board of Directors of the Florida League of Mayors. And then, so that's kind of kept me busy this week, going back and forth. It was a good opportunity to go. Didn't have to get a hotel room or anything like that, out of town. So then on April the 19th, Courtney and I are going to meet with this the small working group that we reported to you before, Miss Mayor Ash and Commissioner Jones and Travis Wade and Michael Marone. We're going to meet with the Triumph Working Group and 2 representatives from the Triumph group over there to see if we can get some projects going on in Carrabelle. And then just for those who didn't know it, and then on the public record, just for public information, we just completed about an hour-and-a-half workshop, and the topic of discussion was nomination of downtown Carrabelle Commercial Core of the City of Carrabelle for placement on the National Register of Historic Places as a National Historic District. And that was presented by Andrew Wobber of the Florida Division of Historical Resources. And so they have completed a application for registration on the National Register of Historic Places, and if it has to, there's going to be several meetings. This group of people from the Division of Historical Resources will notify all the property owners. Hopefully, they'll send out letters to all the property owners. They could decide to put an ad in the newspaper, but I would hopefully request and respectfully request that they send letters to the property owners so that they're properly notified. And there will be some meetings, I don't know where, a group of citizens in town, or they're working with the fellows from the state to put all this together. And once that happens, then there'll be a vote by the property owners on whether or not they want it to be listed on the National Register of Historic Places as a National Historic District. So then my husband and I will be working the kids' costume contest. We're going to be managing the costume contest and having them come up and parade around, and there will be some judges, not myself or not my husband, but we'll be helping out with that, and at the Riverfront Festival on April the 22nd. And happy Easter to everyone.
Amen.
Yes. Okay. We'll move to staff reports. Commissioner Hartman, excuse me, I always call you Commissioner.
Yeah, no,
Dan Hartman,
I have none.
attorney. Okay, thank you. Ms. Courtney, our city administrator.
Everyone received their department reports. Do you have any questions? Any questions? Our informational signage at McKissick Beach, we have the signs are ready to be installed, so Dustin will be doing that probably next week. And the Moby mat's in, so that will complete the project. That was funded by the TDC. Last month, we had Miss Todd that came with her water meter, her high water bill, and she did not send that off to have it tested, but the bill has been paid. And Charlie wanted me to report that they have updated all the valves and the new meter has been installed. So she's had a complete revamp, but they did not send the meter off, but the bill was paid. Every year we have an audit, and we have audit findings. They give us audit findings every year, and if they have the same audit findings for the same 3 years in a row, then we get in trouble for that, so they want us to correct these audit findings. So one of the findings that we had in the last 2 years was to write off old debt for the outstanding debt for the water and sewer department. So we'll be getting a list, compiling a list of those and bringing that to you guys next month to write off. I spoke with the auditor, and he recommended anything over a year, but in our discussion with the superintendent, we're going to start out with a 3-year, anything that's been outstanding for more than 3 years. And then we can change that as we come back next year, and we can adjust that. But he says it's as simple as printing out a list and just having you guys approve to write off this list. So we'll be seeing that in May. Tonight, we need to appoint a volunteer CRA board member. We have 3 that are interested. I have sent you guys all 3 of them. I know one was Kelly Brown and one was Miss Deborah Halama, And then we had Albert Cook. It's
Cook.
not spelled Cook, but it's pronounced Cook. I know we do have Miss Kelly Brown who's here in the audience. Mr. Cook could not make it, but he said he would be available by phone if you guys had any questions for him. And Miss Halima, she had to leave, but she was here earlier. So do you guys, y'all have seen the letters of interest? Do you have any questions for anyone?
Well, I've read their letters, and I've did a little research, and I would like to go ahead and motion for Mr. Cook. He is a residential outside the core downtown. That would be something different for this board, for an appointed member. The first two appointed members were right downtown, their business and their property, their home that they lived in, and it would be, we have expanded our core district and to take in much more residential property. And Mr. Cook was served on the Evansville, Indiana Downtown Redevelopment Committee, and he serves as a volunteer for the Carrabelle History Museum and one other museum, Crooked River Lighthouse. And I think that he would bring some good input to the community because he's got some experience at that. And it would be, I feel like it would just be nice to have a residential person as an appointed person. We have one appointed person right now who owns a business downtown. Mr. Cook cannot come the first two meetings, but we just appointed, because he's got things scheduled in his schedule. We have gone all this long time, over a year, without an appointed member. This came up all of a sudden, and he's already got things scheduled. We just appointed last month 2 people on the P&Z, and they were unable to attend their first P&Z meeting. So I made a motion to appoint Mr. Cook.
Can I say something really quick?
Well, let me go into discussion, if we get a second. K-O-C-H-K, right?
Hold on,
Wait,
I
I've
have-
got it right
I
here,
have it right here, too.
K-O-C-H. K-O-C-H. I have a motion for Mr. Cook, K-O-C-H. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, and we have a second by Mr. Melander, and now discussion.
He told, I can't remember if it was the last CRA meeting or our last commission meeting, but he did say he would be gone several months of the year. And that's normal for him because he doesn't live here full-time.
I think he said for this year, that he wouldn't be able to come to the first 2 meetings this year, or
I just
whenever.
heard him say several months of the year he would be gone and asked if we needed him to be at meetings.
We do need him to be, anybody needs to be at meetings. They can't vote on the phone.
That's correct.
So, I'm just going to go ahead and call for a vote, unless there's any other discussion,
Well,
so we can move through this.
and that's good, yeah, I'm ready to move through. But I would like to comment, if that's the case with him, and he's not gonna be able to attend meetings, then we may need to back up and punt, so to speak. And I'm good with the motion, but confirm that he's gonna be able to attend our meetings. If he's not, then we need to redo it. That's my opinion, so.
Do y'all want to call him?
Is he available on the phone?
He told me if we had any questions to give him a call.
Okay.
I mean, I understand if he already committed for, the next 2 meetings, that's not a problem.
Welcome to Verizon Wireless. We're sorry.
I guess not.
Okay,
Oh. Okay.
I'm willing to go forward with it, and let's see what his response is gonna be to Courtney. And then if it's necessary, we'll redo. If not, then we'll go with that. If
Okay.
that's
Hi,
what the
Mr.
board
Cook.
votes
This is Courtney with the City of
for. Oh, I'm
Carrabelle. I'm going to put you on speakerphone. We're here at the city commission meeting, and our commissioners have a few questions for you. Okay, hold on just a second.
Okay.
All right, go ahead, Mayor.
Sabrina, you want to go ahead?
Sure. Did
Go
he
ahead.
say, hold on? Hi, Mr. Cook. I know we spoke at the last meeting and you stated that you would be unavailable for several months of the year. Is that
That's
still
correct.
accurate?
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Will you ask him so he can hear you?
You stated that you would be out May through August. Is that
Right.
every year, or is that just for this year?
It's most likely for at least the next year or two, because our son, he's in college, and in Indiana, we go back and forth, so we're about 50-50. And so when he's home for the summer, we would be going back up there. But as far as like future ones, I can't speak to that because I really just don't know.
Okay.
Okay, that was the
Shelley,
only
thank you.
question that we had.
Okay.
All right, thank you for
All right.
answering.
Thank you. Okay,
Okay,
Mr.
very
Hartman,
good.
can I
Thank
withdraw
you.
my
Bye-bye.
motion? Or do you want us
Was
to
the
vote?
motion seconded?
Yes.
Yes. So I know that, since you asked, we'll make it overly formal. So now the motion belongs to the commission.
Yes.
So we would need a motion to withdraw the motion.
Oh, goodness.
And get that seconded and vote on it, and it's.
Or why don't we
Let's
just
just vote
vote?
on it.
Let's just vote.
Keep it
Yeah,
simple.
yeah.
Okay, so all in, now, we understand how we're going to, all right, all in favor? All opposed? Aye.
Nay.
Okay, and that motion carries. Okay.
Fails.
Yeah, but the motion,
The motion-
Something.
the motion did not carry, it failed.
We rarely have that happen. I
Rarely.
would like to motion for Kelly Brown to be our new CRA board member.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, and now we have discussion, and that's by Brown.
And I would like
And-
to comment, she is not my cousin.
Okay. And second, motion by Commissioner Brown, second by Commissioner Walden. And we're in discussion, and I have questions because I can't find property that you own in the CRA district, Ms. Brown.
I own the cottages,
Did you say own or owned?
I owned, I just sold them,
You just sold them?
I did,
Uh-huh.
to an absentee owner who wants me to continue to run them on his behalf.
So what is the, we're going to look up the
hang on.
the
She has
guidelines.
business in the CRA
I
district.
think a business may qualify too, so.
So are you registered with the city then, with your business in the, do you have a business, an occupational license with the city?
I'm not sure how that's gonna work, with him being the actual owner, so I guess I'll have to figure that out.
That's what I understood her to say, is she's no longer the owner.
She's running the business.
That's an employee, but that's not the owner.
Or, go ahead, sir.
Mr. Hartman's looking at it.
And are you registered with Sunbiz as a business owner? Okay.
Because and here again, Mr. Hartman's looking it up, but I understood they either have to be a business or property owner within the CRA district.
And you're also a local realtor, is that correct?
No, I'm not a realtor,
Okay.
I'm a Georgia realtor. But I do own 2 properties in the city, but they're not in the.
CRA district.
Georgia Realtor's a long way from our CRA district.
She's selling Atlanta.
Okay.
Awesome. I vote for Mr. Cook.
I have one more item of business if we want to
Okay,
move
yes,
forward while
please
Dan's
do.
looking that up.
All right.
So for the Riverfront Festival, the chamber is needing to close off Marine Street at Highway 98, Avenue B, and all the way to the edge of Highway 98, Avenue B from Marine Street to the back edge of Lost Treasures. Avenue C from Marine Street to just before the overflow parking lot, and Southeast First Street at the back corner of the Georgian. And they'll make allowances for the bail for the house that's in there. Marine Street at Avenue E, and at the end of Marine Street to the public restrooms. So it's basically what we've done every year, but they will take it all the way down Marine Street
From 98 to the end?
to the restrooms, yes.
Haven't we already always took it to the?
Yes.
end?
So do you want to
I
describe
don't know that we
again?
need a motion, but we've done it every year.
Let's just go ahead and have a motion. If you want
Motion
to
to
just,
approve.
okay, all right, we have that to close the city streets as described by Ms. Courtney.
Second.
Okay, that's Commissioner Melander, and Commissioner Gray has seconded that to close the city streets as described by Courtney for the April 22nd
Yes, for the Riverfront
Festival.
Festival.
Is there any other discussion? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? And that motion carries. Okay, so that motion carried, right? Get it right, okay. Okay, Mr.
All right,
Hartman.
so it's very broad. So any person can may be appointed as a commissioner if he or she resides in the district or is engaged in a business, which means owning a business, practicing a profession, or performing a service for compensation, or serving as an officer, director of a corporation or other business so engaged within the area of operation of the agency. So that's
So-
very broad.
Very
Yeah.
broad.
When I was on the CRA, my store wasn't open. I had an online business.
But you lived.
What?
Oh, yeah, that's right.
You lived, she resided in the
That's right.
district. And you were a voter there, a registered voter. So, so, you want to read that again?
I can read it one more time.
Yeah.
All right. Is engaged in business, which means owning a business, practicing a profession, or, so it's not and, or performing a service for compensation within the CRA. I mean, if you're getting paid to do whatever you're doing at the old cottages, you're okay.
She's running a business.
Yep.
Yeah.
We could ask her if she's being paid, but I don't want to get that personal. All right, y'all have any other questions?
She does need to be getting paid.
I don't think she's working for free.
All right.
Okay, so we have this motion for Ms. Kelly Brown by Commissioner Brown, and second by Commissioner Walden. Any further discussion?
No relation.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? And that one carries. All right?
Congratulations.
When's our next meeting? Oh, Miss Keisha. Miss Keisha will tell us when our next meeting is here shortly. Anything else, Miss Courtney?
Nope, that's all I have.
Okay. All right, then, we're going to move on to the city clerk.
All right, I got some dates for you. City Hall will be closed tomorrow for Good Friday. Our next CRA meeting, Ms. Kelly Brown, will be April 18th at 1:30. Our next CRA meeting, Planning and Zoning meeting will be April 20th at 2 o'clock. As of now, I don't have anything for that agenda, so that's tentative. And then our next city commission meeting is May 4th at 6 p.m.
All right, do you all have comments or questions for Ms. Keisha? Okay, then hello, Mr. Russell. We'll move on to Russell Large of Vonovia, his report. I didn't get to speak to you today.
All right, thank you. We did submit the Baywood projects, and we for funding through the DOT Small Communities Outreach Program, and we did that in Phase 1, Phase 2, and Phase 3. That was submitted on March 16th. For our Lighthouse project, we do have some continued coordination going on between the Water Management District and FDEP for approval of the change order. There were some additional requests to connect, so we have to go through that change order process. I can tell you that after the change order amount, there is a grant amount remaining. So these additional connections can be funded within the limits of the existing grant amount. DEP is bringing this to the TIG board on this coming Monday. So I expect that we'll be hearing about approval on that very soon. Okay, on our Marine Street CDBG project, the plans and specifications were approved by DOE for letting, and those advertisements for bids are scheduled to run in the Tallahassee Democrat, Panama City News Herald, and the Times. The bids will be due on May 24th at 2 p.m. The Carrabelle Cemetery expansion. We did receive the geotechnical report. We did review it. Much better news on that property. The groundwater there, those depths range from about 4 feet to 8 feet. And there's a standard, the National Cemetery Administration Design Guide requires that the water table is a minimum of 8 feet below the estimated final grade. So that's going to work in, I would say, about 50% of the area. In the other areas, that would require a little bit of fill to be placed, about 4 feet, say 4 to 5 feet of fill to be placed in order for that property to be used. But the good news is that it would be usable.
Question.
Sure.
We would be required to place the fill in there for the traditional below the surface burial.
Right.
Above ground burial we wouldn't be required.
That's correct.
To
Yeah.
have the
Yeah.
fill.
That's right.
So we could identify those as above ground burial sites.
That's true. You could do that. Yep.
And then on the 8 feet, is that in a concentrated area? Can you, do you know that? I guess they'll give us a map.
Yeah, and we do have the locations of the borings. So yes, we do have a general idea of where that area is. Obviously on the higher ground portion of the
So
property.
then, do we have any other questions right now regarding the radar, the geotechnical survey that was done?
Oh, on Gray Avenue? No, I haven't received that.
No, I mean, I'm sorry. Wasn't that a geotechnical survey that was just done at the cemetery? That
Yes.
was- Okay.
Yes, those are actual
Yes.
borings. Yeah.
So then, if there's no more questions on that particular, what's the next steps? What are the next steps?
Okay, the next steps, and we did prepare a memo on this, but municipalities are not required, they're not regulated like private cemeteries would be. So as long as you meet the standards, and these are outlined in the memo, and we provided this to Courtney, there's some detail there regarding dimensions, things of that nature. So as long as those things are met, you would be able to proceed and use the property.
Well, I was just going to say, maybe we need to look at this memo. I haven't
I just
seen
got it this afternoon. I
That's-
haven't looked at it either, but I will see.
Right, and we've been in a workshop, we've been here since 4 o'clock, all of us, and so if we could, get some more background, maybe we'll
Right,
have him
right.
get a scope of work at our next commission meeting. So, or unless you want to go ahead and ask for a scope of work now.
I'm
So-
following with what you're doing because I'm anxious to move forward. We're quickly running out of opportunity.
And we probably
And-
gonna need Mr. Roddenberry to
Yeah.
survey
That's
them
right.
out.
Exactly.
Uh-huh.
That's where I was gonna go with Russell and follow up with what the mayor's saying is, I'm anxious to go ahead and move forward because we desperately need those to offer the public.
Right.
And even if we identify those lower areas as above-ground spots, then people would have the choice. And then those locations that we can, and like Keisha's saying, we can go ahead and have Roddenberry survey that out and go ahead and have those ready for the public. And again, Mayor, you're probably right. We can go ahead and request a scope of work and get further information as you want
Right.
to look at it.
So,
I would
all right,
agree.
well, why don't we, because we know we have money set aside.
Correct.
Okay, let's have a motion, if it seems in order for to have Russell complete a scope of work and to someone, Courtney or Russell, to contact the surveyor to go ahead and get us a survey of the area.
I'll make that motion.
Okay,
I'll second.
okay. All right, so we have that motion by Commissioner Millender, second by Commissioner Brown, to direct Mr. Russell to bring us the scope of work for the development of the cemetery annex and to contact Mr. Roddenberry for a survey of that area. Any discussion?
Yes, ma'am, I do have one other question for Russell. Russell, have you been on this site?
From the roadway, I've seen it with my eyes, yes.
Do we need to do more land clearing work before the survey's done?
There's a portion of that property that is still wooded that would need to be cleared, yes. But I think, why don't we identify our scope of work first? And, clearing of the property would be part of what we would recommend ultimately.
Okay, that'd be great, but again, I can't emphasize enough that I think it's pretty urgent that we move as
Okay.
rapidly as possible.
Imperative,
Very,
but,
very,
yeah,
yes.
it's
Okay.
imperative, and then, but we want to do it right and get it done right
We
as
do,
well.
but we need to move forward.
Okay, understood.
Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? And that motion carries. Okay, Mr. Russell, you can continue.
Okay, for Ryan Drive, we're continuing with that plans preparation and a drainage analysis. We have a pre-application meeting scheduled with the Water Management District on 12 April. And also, as part of that meeting, we'll be discussing the Avenue C overflow boat parking project. That's a formal pre-application meeting. On the golf cart crossings, we did have some back and forth with DOT. We satisfied their review comments, and that has been resubmitted, and I would anticipate we would receive final approval on that by April the 20th. So that's in about 2 weeks. On our Lanark West sewer application, we did have some follow-up conversations, answered some questions from the reviewer. That project is being presented to the Water Management District Board next week, and then in May, it will be presented to DEP. And then lastly, the water supply well number 5. We have requested a meeting with DEP to begin the permit process for an additional well. Okay, and that's my report. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
All right.
Thank you.
Any questions?
Thank you.
Okay, well,
Thank you.
thank you so much. All right. And Courtney, if you'll send us whatever he's sent. Okay. All right, then we're going to move on to the advisory board reports. The Carrabelle Waterfront Partnership, we received Ms. Tamara's report. Do we have any comments or questions on that? She's given us a brief rundown on the elevator situation. Did you have anything you wanted to say, Ms. Tamara?
Thank you. We thought we were ready to come to you and ask you for help with money to, we thought we knew how much we needed, but we couldn't get our architect and all the things to lay down and be in a row. So we're going to have to come back to you next month and talk about pricing for the elevator. But our plan is still to, for the architect to create the plan, to get a cost idea of what it would cost to do it, and then for us to go to the TDC to get that infrastructure money to use first. We were very pleased to receive a nice donation from the St. James Bay Golf Trivia Night of $1,252 for this past quarter, and we're going to add that to our pot of match that we have. So we're inching away at it, but I want to give you a real figure. So, I think the best thing to do would be to not to table that part of the request for tonight and just know that I'm going after everything else first before I ask you for money.
Okay, all right, thank you very much. All right, so then we'll move to the Carrabelle Aviation Advisory Board, and we received Mr. Sullivan's report. And do we have any questions to Mr. Sullivan? We're having the annual airport inspection by the FDOT is going to be April the 13th. And we're going to have there'll be a kickoff construction meeting for the taxiway construction that's about to start out there, Taxiway B, running parallel to the original runway. And he reported on the FAMU students that were out there, which I reported last commission meeting as well. So anything else? Y'all, any questions? Okay, anything, Mr. Sullivan? All right. And then we have Steve Allen is here to report on the Crooked River Lighthouse Association.
Hello, yes, okay. So I'm Steve Allen. I'm the president of the Carrabelle Lighthouse Association. And the scar on my head shows that I was out in the sun today bumping my head on the boat as we put together the parts, and we have a few slides to share. It's dramatically changed from just a couple weeks ago in that the siding for the boat is being put on. The selection of the color of a purple haze inspired by Jimi Hendrix is on there. It looks lovely, I believe. You may notice that I left areas in between the siding, and the reason I did that was multiple. One was it would allow light into the structure. It also allows wind to blow through the structure. It also allows parents to see their children while on the boat and observe them. And the overall effect is going to be really nice, I think. So really happy. It's I'll make one point as you see some of the pictures that have the horizontal iron bars. So this is a joke, but I'm proposing that we save the county millions of dollars by having the police chief, when things get out of hand at the bars downtown, they can drop off any of the overflow over there as a holding cell and save thousands of dollars in tax money, not having to transport every individual ne'er-do-well over to the county lockup. And so we'll be making that proposal. But those rails are cool. It's very open inside. We have a concert tonight, the Full Moon Climb. I'm leaving immediately after these comments to go over there and get ready for that concert event. Do you all, one other thing, I'm working now to try to identify the slides that will go on the back of it. And so they're very, very pricey. And Courtney and I talked about it before, but I just hate to spend the kind of money that they want for those slides. It's sinful. The difference between one that is made the same as the other one is substantial. It's a car, and it's just outrageous. So I would like to have two for the price of one. I'm working on that. Anyway, that's what's going on. It's coming along and moving quickly now. We're sort of just buttoning up all of the pieces to it, the railing and the stuff, to make it where kids can get on it and play. That's our first objective. And speaking of infrastructure grant, we're embarking on our second infrastructure grant that the city was able to provide us the money for in lieu of the TDC's infrastructure grant. This is our second one. They're tremendous. They're incredible. I wish we'd had them for years. I wish they were twice what they are now for about 5 years, so we could catch up on the much needed repairs to some of the facilities. But the support y'all gave that letter earlier is incredible. So thank you so much for that. Is there any questions?
Looks awesome.
Yeah, it's looking cool, isn't it? It's beginning to look like a boat. All right, thank you.
Okay, and thank you for reporting and your volunteer work.
Yes, yes, ma'am.
It's a good job. Y'all have a nice concert out there.
Oh, absolutely. I'm
Okay.
going to enjoy it. Y'all come on after the meeting.
Beautiful weather. All right, and anybody in the public, anyone in the public can obtain these, the written reports from Ms. Keisha's office. Okay, we were going to move on to our public hearing, Mr. Hartman, and we have item 1, which is a proclamation for National Volunteer Week.
Great. So this is Proclamation 01-2023. It's National Volunteer Week, April 16th through 22nd, 2023. Whereas the entire community can inspire, equip, and mobilize people to take action that changes the world. And whereas individuals and communities are at the center of social change, discovering their power to make a difference. And whereas during the week of April 16 through 22nd, 2023, all over the nation, volunteers will be recognized for their commitment to service. And whereas the giving of oneself in service to another empowers the giver and recipient. Whereas over 30% of the United States volunteer, and it is a great treasure. And whereas volunteers are vital to our future as a caring and productive community. And whereas a volunteer saves a national average of $29.95 an hour for the organization it volunteers for, whereas in Florida, a volunteer saves the organization it volunteers for an average of $27.68, whereas volunteers give of themselves for no other reason but to improve our community. Now, therefore, we, the Carrabelle City Commission, do hereby proclaim that April 16 through 22nd, 2023 is National Volunteer Week in Carrabelle, and also urge our fellow citizens to volunteer in Carrabelle and Franklin County. Also, we urge others to recognize those who serve by tirelessly sharing their time and talent with those in need.
All right, do we have any questions here regarding this proclamation?
A motion to approve.
All right.
Proclamation number 01-2023.
All right, do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, Ms. Keisha, that approval for the proclamation is Commissioner Millender makes the motion, Commissioner Brown makes the second. Any other discussion?
Yes, ma'am. I'd like to make some comments.
Okay.
I would like to say to all the volunteers, I could name them all. We've had 3 that I know of already tonight that we've either reached out to or the mayor has. And we've had some come up to the podium. We have quite a few that aren't even in attendance here tonight, both on the P&Z, on the CRA. Anyway, and I won't go to names because I'm afraid I'll miss one.
Fire department.
Yes, fire department.
Yeah, our fire department.
Fire department.
We must have.
Anyway, I'm graciously proud of our volunteers in the city of Carrabelle. Highly respect all the volunteers and the great work that they do for the community here in the city of Carrabelle. And I will recognize one by name, and that's that lady sitting there in that chair. I admire her dearly. She does a super job. And she spends a lot of time. But anyway, I don't have the full words to express my gratitude and appreciation for all the volunteers that's within the city of Carrabelle. Thank you very much.
Okay. Any other discussion? Any other discussion? I will echo what Commissioner Millender said, and also mention the Carrabelle Aviation Advisory Board, because
I was looking straight at
yeah, they save the city $30,000, $32,000 a year. So we're every little bit counts. I know it sounds like a little bit, but it certainly adds up over the years, and we thank y'all and everybody for their hard work, and Tamara for managing the Justice Building. Thank you. Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? And that motion carries for the proclamation. Okay, Mr. Hartman, then we've got a first reading,
All
couple
right.
of first readings.
We have 2 ordinances, one for zoning, one for land use, and this is the Baywood parcel that's looking to be the land use change and rezoning change. So ordinance number 488 is an ordinance of the City of Carrabelle, Florida, rezoning a 2.52 acre parcel lying in Section 17, Township 7 South, Range 4 West, Carrabelle, Franklin County, Florida, from agricultural to R5 residential, providing for the repeal of any ordinance or parts thereof in conflict herewith, providing for severability, and providing for an effective date. And no action necessary. Ordinance number 489 is an ordinance amending the City of Carrabelle Comprehensive Plan to change the permitted land use of 2.52 acre parcel lying in Section 17, Township 7 South, Range 4 West, Carrabelle, Franklin County, Florida, from agricultural to residential, providing for the repeal of any ordinance or parts thereof in conflict herewith, providing for severability, and providing for an effective date.
All right, no action under either of those. That will be next month at the second reading.
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much, and we will move on to our quasi-judicial hearing. We have item 1 under that, and this is discussion of possible action concerning final approval for replat of Sun and Sand Village, Unit 2, lots 8 and 9, and this is requested by Mr. Ed Simmons. And we had this on our agenda last month, which we approved the preliminary or the conceptual site plan, and P&Z did not meet on this, is
No.
that correct?
We did not have a quorum.
So we don't have their recommendation as we normally do, but, and that's why I mentioned that we, and has their site plan changed?
No, that's the same plan.
The same plan that we approved last month as in the preliminary stage?
That's correct.
Okay. Do we have any other questions to Ms. Courtney, Keisha or Mr. Hartman about this?
I don't have any questions other than what the clerk has expressed. Even though the P&Z didn't meet, there's no changes made. So, and since they didn't meet, they didn't have a recommendation, but they did in the beginning, and there's no changes from that point. I'll make a motion to approve.
Okay, that's good, thank you.
And if, talking to Russell, if the motion could just include a condition, which is...
There are no private roads in there. I mean, no public roads in there. It's all private.
Okay, so that's the condition.
Well, and the
No.
utilities are at the street, not on the, I mean, they run them on the interior. Is that right?
Well, they would, yes, they need to run the utilities into the private right-of-way.
Yes.
But the utilities would need to be dedicated to the city and placed in an easement.
Now, from what I understood is they were going to have one connection at the road and then go from there. So
Okay.
then that wouldn't need to be turned over to the city because our point of service. Am I
see.
correct on that, Mr. Thurman? Okay, so it's going to be
Okay.
one connection.
That's acceptable. They just need to have a backflow preventer and a master meter at that location.
Right, okay.
So I did not see a utility plan that showed that
They
per
met
se,
with
but-
Charlie. I assumed they had met with you too.
Okay.
Charlie had met with them at the site. Mr. Simmons isn't here either, but Mr. Thurman is on.
So I would say it conditioned upon approval of the utility plan by the city of Carrabelle,
Okay.
and conditioned upon obtaining the necessary permits from the Northwest Florida Water Management District.
I'll amend my
Now-
motion to include the
I have one more thing too. I want to make sure that it's got the private roads. We want to make sure he understands it's private roads. That's important down in the future,
Yes.
so.
Yeah.
Well, let's word this, get it worded. So, how does Mr. Melander word this?
I thought that Keisha it was already spelled out within the request about the private roads. Is that correct, Keisha?
Right, so they're not they've got a lot of stuff on here, but they're just platting the land. So we really could take all this off for right now because we're just platting the lands. This isn't a development order.
And I don't want to confuse this because I think we're right on track, but it is a development order because it's a plat.
Plat, well.
And, right, and then the plat is by statute, 177 has to have stuff on it, and it would have to show them as private rights-of-way because
On the
people are
private
clear that when they buy out there or that the city doesn't have to maintain them, right?
Right.
But that's right. So I think the three conditions are simply approval of the utility connections, permits from the Water Management District, and...
Which I believe they already have that. I'm not, Mr. Simmons isn't here. So.
I don't think we do, because we'll do that.
And that the, that's probably inferred because it's on the plat, but that the roads are private interior roads. Those three
We'll have that
conditions.
in the dedication.
Yeah.
Yep. So that'll be on the face of the plat.
I think I can do it.
Okay.
My motion still stands, but I'll amend it to include the three conditions as described by the city attorney.
There you go.
All right. That's good.
I'll write it in I'll write it in the motion.
That's
I'll write
the
it in the motion.
approval of the, do we have a second?
I'll
that?
second.
Okay.
As described by
And,
Commissioner Miller.
yeah, approval of the utility connections and necessary permits from the Water Management District and the private roads.
It's taped, so we got him.
Recorded and videoed. Okay, any other discussion? All right, those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. All right.
Yes.
We want it to be right, though. We don't want to have any misunderstandings down the
Yeah,
private
we
road.
don't, yeah, not those.
Okay, item 2, discussion and possible action concerning a special exception at 1637 West Highway 98, zoned C1 commercial to allow for residential use for RV lots. So I'm going to ask Ms. Keisha, if y'all don't mind, because this didn't go to the P&Z. We don't have a recommendation so the public hasn't heard about it either. And Ms. Keisha and Mr. Hartman to please explain this to us.
And then Courtney, I sent you the stuff if they want to look at it, but,
And Courtney, do you have a plat or something, like maybe even that?
I just emailed it to you just a few minutes ago,
Okay.
so you would have it fresh on your screen. But anyway, I'll go ahead and start with, they did go through the letter process of sending the certified letters. I haven't got any feedback one way or the other. Then again, we did not have a quorum for our P&Z meeting, so they did not get to come before this. But it's going to be the next, maybe page 3. Yeah, there we go. So this is kind of what they're wanting. They need a special exception because the store, that's the old Two Brothers there, and they want the 10 RV spots in the back. And they need a special exception because commercial for residential use. Now, this wouldn't be a permanent RV park. This would be, a come and go.
Come and go.
And then I believe you're here with Mr. Dan Garlick's here with them too, because he prepared all this too.
Okay. All right. Are they, come on up, and I'll just ask a question while.
And y'all probably all know Mr. Dan Garlick.
Will they be having any permanent RVs or park models? Are they all going to be?
No, we don't allow
transitory?
permanent.
Okay.
So, and just as Keisha said, on our chart, our table, it just has in C1, which this is, for recreational vehicles, you got to get a special exception. Right. So they're not residences. They won't be.
And Mr. Garlick's probably more here for the next part, but anyway, that's.
Okay, and they're planning on putting a business in the front, in the old Two Bros building?
Yes.
Like what kind, it doesn't matter, we
It
can't
doesn't
ask
matter.
that. We
That's
can't ask.
commercial anyway.
Okay. All right, and we do know that building is blighted, in a blighted
Yes.
condition right now. Do we have any other questions regarding this?
I just I asked Courtney some questions, but I'm sure other people may be concerned about the same thing, so I'll just ask it publicly. This will not be used for storage of the RVs or trailers or anything, correct? This would be people bringing in their mobile homes, staying, and then leaving with them.
Right, so the residential, this is the special exception. We got the special exception, and then we've got the conceptual site plan. Special exception is for residential use.
Or
in
recreational
For
vehicle use.
recreational vehicles, so.
But-
That's
and
what
how long can they stay there?
Yes.
Normally in a RV park, you're allowed to go up to 14 days.
Okay,
This will also have to be inspected on a routine basis by the Department of Health. That's one of the items that they deal with all the time. I believe we already have a tap that's available for the sewer and water. So, all that stuff is pretty good. As we talked before, we'll need to go to the Water Management District for a stormwater management permit. There's a little bit of wetlands in the back. We respected a 20-foot setback off of that. But we've got plenty of room to still do it. It's kind of a tight fit, but we're able to do it.
okay, and then they would be required to evacuate under the emergency evacuation for
And the way they've got it set up too, the floodplain manager, Emmy, they have all of the sites outside of the VE, the high velocity flood zone, they're all in the AE, so it kind of goes uphill back in there. So that's a big thing in our flood ordinance. That
Okay.
we don't want to have them in the BE zone, especially the park models, because they tend to try and stay a little longer.
I got a question.
Oh, certainly.
Dan, for each one of the campers, if you will, campers or RVs, good word, thank you. And I'm sure on your plan design, you've included parking separately for the vehicles, not for the RV, but separately for the vehicle?
Those are pull-throughs, so the idea is that if there is one, they have to basically fit in that area. I think those are set up for a pretty good size.
60 feet.
Yeah, so you should be able to get,
That's huge.
I mean, you'll have some big ones in there, but as far as parking a car, I don't know what, if they'll even be able to allow that, but for the most part, it's set up where you have RVs that are, 40 to 45 and they're pulling a car, you should be able to do that, but for the most part, if anything, he would probably put the cars in front of the restaurant as opposed to giving them the back, just because it's so tight to get in there.
So you're not gonna actually have a car parking space next to the RV?
No, I think the idea would be is keep them in the front and not behind the vehicles, just for the congestion.
And just a straight pull-through.
Right.
They would also be required to, I have to check with Charlie as far as water and sewer, because I don't know if they have a 1-inch tap or 3/4-inch tap, but they will have to pay the tap fees, 1 tap fee for every 3 sites. That will be required. So they have one existing, that will be for the restaurant, and then they'll have to pay the tap fees for the additional site.
I don't wanna beat a dead horse, but I go back to parking, Dan.
Yeah, again, if they're, the size of the RVs that he's going to be able to use in here is not gonna be a 60-footer with a car. There's just no way it's gonna happen. So it's gonna be the smaller, if he can fit the car in the RV in that site, that's great. If he cannot, then he's not gonna be able to service them. So
Okay.
unless they don't have a car, then they're good to go.
Well, it's a good question, because you had mentioned that the vehicle that comes in with the RV could park around in front.
Yeah.
Well, that's gonna be parking for your person, for your people that's attending their business there, whatever business that may be.
Right, and if it's a restaurant, then you might have some problems. If it's more like a retail,
Convenience.
something along that line, then the parking's gonna be a lot less. So he's gonna have to figure that one out, but for the most part, what he is catering to is the vehicles that can actually access that area. And it's a tight fit for the really big rigs, with a car especially. It's just not
So
gonna happen for those bigger rigs.
probably catering to motorhomes then.
More like that, yeah.
So essentially, they'd pull in one side and come out the other side.
Yeah, you're gonna find those, there's some of those are just not capable of carrying a car. They're just not, they're not powerful enough. And that's the folks that he's probably gonna be catering to.
Well, my concern is with parking, and you've heard me on the county's planning and zoning, is I know when it was a restaurant,
Was it what?
when the existing building that's on site was a restaurant, that many times the parking out front overflowed to the back because there wasn't enough room up front.
Yeah, and he's gonna have to consider that when he looks at as you can see on the existing restaurant's convenience center. I suspect that he's gonna have a convenience center, not a restaurant. I think when he realizes that he's gonna get into that,
Yeah, I'm not questioning what his business is, I'm just the parking
Yeah.
issue.
And obviously, the parking for a restaurant's gonna be substantially more than a convenience center. He'll probably end up using that as a store that services those units in the back. That's what I'm thinking.
All right, then we need to take some, you're certainly welcome. Do we have any other questions by the commission members? Do we have questions from the audience? Okay, we need to take some action, either approve or disapprove. Is that correct, Ms. Keisha?
Or with conditions.
Approve with conditions? All right. Or disapprove?
Now, this is the special exception allowing a residential use, and then we'll visit the site plan next.
I would like to make a motion to allow for residential use for the RV lots. I see a great need for more places for people to stay in our area, and I think this would be greatly beneficial.
All right. And Keisha, just for clarification, I know we say on the agenda, though, for residential use, but that can be a special exception in C1, but there's also a special exception required for recreational vehicles. So is it residential or recreational vehicles?
Residential use for RV lots.
And the thing why that confuses me a little bit is, are we saying people can live in them full-time?
That's what was
I mean,
confusing to me.
that's, and, because you have, essentially, you could come in, and I get it, is if you wanted to put RVs on lots, if you want to do RVs, as this is doing in C1, you'd have to get a special exception to do pads. If you want to do a residential, put a home in there, put something that someone could live in year-round, you'd also come in for a special exception. Are they looking for both?
Well, no,
or
no,
just
the
RVs?
residential use, just the use of being, the accommodations.
Like an RV use is recreational, right?
we
Instead of
wanna-
residential, just
Motion for a special exception to allow for
RV.
RV use.
Just take out the word
Is that-
residential.
We'll stipulate to that, because that's
okay.
really what we're.
Yeah,
I mean-
okay, cool.
Okay, for
I'm just gonna
RV
take
use,
out the
RV
word
use.
Residential.
residential
Yeah.
for RV
Perfect.
lots.
Perfect.
As for RV use.
Cool.
Okay, and that's
That's why I
good.
was confused at
Thank
first
you.
too.
Yeah.
Dan's
All right, so
overthinking tonight.
We have, all
I
right,
was too. I don't want people living in RVs there.
I know it. We have a motion then by Commissioner Brown to allow the special exception for RV use only. All right. Okay. Do we have any other discussion? And that motion is by Commissioner Brown, second by Commissioner Walden. Any other discussion? Those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, and that motion carries. I agree, we have a need for
do too.
places to stay, and RVs are,
It's a good location.
they don't use on our services necessarily. Okay, item 3, which is a follow-up of this, is to approve or disapprove the conceptual plan for 1637 West Highway 98. And so we've been looking at the conceptual plan.
So this is conceptual. You can draw this and turn it in because you want them to be able to get the idea if you can get the use. Before they come back for final site plan, they will have to have their water management, for site plan, have to have their tap fees figured out and all that stuff. So this is same thing,
Preliminary.
but preliminary.
Okay, and do you see this site plan changing much? You don't know yet till they get their water management permitting.
Right. They shouldn't have to change it any more than that. Mr. Garlick does this,
Yeah.
you know.
And then the final,
But it will have to show if they need any stormwater. It's probably not big enough to qualify. I don't know, but,
any retention
right.
pond, So this will, if you have a quorum for P and Z, this for the final approval.
It will go
to
before them
the-
again,
okay,
yes.
all right. Which this did not
So
go
we
to
will,
the.
right. If this gets approved, then we will have for sure, April P and Z, yes.
Okay. All right then.
They would also need to show the driveway, show, some of Mr. Millender's concerns.
Dan will be identifying the wetlands and such.
The wetlands are identified on there,
On
but.
there. Okay.
I can just say one more thing about it, and we'll be doing some topographic work on here to deal with this, to make sure we got a good stormwater management plan. It's probably gonna be a lot of swales, but since there's a little bit of wetland here, we don't qualify for the 10-2, unfortunately. But in there also, we'll give you a parking plan, so you know that we've got, we can deal with that as well. So that'll be in that final plan.
Okay, yeah, so we can see
Yeah.
where the little vehicles
You got
will
it.
be. Okay.
Maybe they'll be driving all those
And they
little
may
smart
have to,
cars about that big.
they may have to
E-cars.
jagger
Yeah.
them a little bit, so, it's basically, so it may change a little bit, but this is the
All right.
idea.
And generally, we don't hash all of this out at the commission meeting. All of this is done at the P and Z, and the P and Z level volunteer board, and we appreciate their service that they provide as well.
As do I.
Okay. Okay, I bet you do. All right, then.
Motion to approve.
All right, we have a motion to approve the conceptual site plan by Commissioner Millender, and I'll just go ahead and second it. And do we have any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? And that motion carries, and thank you, Mr. Garlick.
Will y'all be
Thank you, Dan.
ready for final, Mr. Garlick?
It depends on the water.
So it may not be actually this month.
Yeah, I was thinking that'd be a little early.
Yeah,
We'll certainly get back with you on that.
okay, just let me know.
Okay.
Thanks again.
All right, thank you. Happy Easter.
Same to you.
Finally, we get to new business. And we get to talk
I'm sorry,
about-
you did the second, didn't you?
Yeah, and it carried unanimous. And new business, item 1, discussion and possible action regarding the chief of police salary. So I think we've all had, Courtney, has everyone had a chance to review with you and discuss this preliminary with you? Yes. Okay. And has the chief discussed it with you?
I have went over these numbers with the chief.
Okay. Do we have, you want to make a motion, sir?
Sure.
Okay.
I'm gonna make a motion that his salary be set at the same salary as our exiting police chief was at.
I'll second.
Okay, so I'm going to call that salary out and make sure I understand.
Okay.
Okay, so that's at 53,712.
Correct.
Okay,
72.
yeah, 72 cents. Okay, and we have that motion by Commissioner Millender. And do we have a second?
I second today.
Okay. And is there any discussion? Any other discussion? Those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? And that motion carries. All right, and then we have item 2, discussion of possible action regarding hiring a police officer. And we have Chief Hogan here and Ms. Courtney. I know they worked on it, I feel like, together. Just want to ask, was the position properly advertised as
Yes, it was.
required? And you received the responses?
We had one applicant.
Okay. And then would Chief Hogan like to come up then and tell us his recommendation?
Yes, so we did run an advertisement and we received one applicant, and that was Mr. Tim Stevens from Lanark Beach.
Mm-hmm.
Mr. Stevens, he holds dual certificates as a correction officer as well as a law enforcement officer. He's mainly worked in corrections mostly, but just recently, within the past year, has crossed over into the field of law enforcement.
Mm-hmm.
And I do recommend that the board move and hire Mr. Stevens.
Is Mr. Stevens with us this evening?
He is.
Mm-hmm. Okay, there he is. All right.
I'm gonna make a motion to accept the chief's recommendation.
I'll second that also.
Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Millender to accept the chief's recommendation for Mr. Tim Stevens as a new police officer. That's second by Commissioner Brown. Any discussion? Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, and that motion carries. And welcome aboard, Officer Stevens. We're glad to have you. All right, item 3, discussion and possible, we're removing this, actually, we're going to table this. Do you want it tabled, Ms. Tamara, or you'll be ready next month? Okay. So I'm going to request a motion to table this item to the May 4th commission meeting.
I'll make the motion.
That motion is by Commissioner Brown. Do we have a second?
Second.
A second by Commissioner Melander. Any discussion? All
Good
in
luck.
favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, and that motion carries. All right. New business continued. Item 4, and that one has been removed. Item 4 is discussion and possible action regarding the Riverfront Festival, extending that to the first block of Tallahassee Street, and that was requested by the chamber, and they have removed that from
Yes.
the agenda.
Yes, they have.
Okay, so that's that for that one. And then item 5, under new business continued, is discussion and possible action concerning changing the ordinance to allow special exception for multifamily in the R2 areas. And that was requested by Mr. Edwin Collins, and he too has removed that from the agenda. Okay. Okay, then our last item for the evening under old business is item 1, discussion and possible action regarding the Poteet settlement agreement. And everyone received a copy of the settlement agreement for review. Has everyone reviewed it? Okay, and do we have any questions to Mr. Hartman? Any questions?
There
Okay.
was a question. So I sent out the attachment later because that was one of the questions I got is what is attachment A? And then Mr. Hartman did include the hold harmless verbiage in there that we would not be held liable for any damage, us or the contractor. And then the second question, or the third question that we did receive was whether or not to put it not to exceed amount. That we have Mr. Russell's estimate, but what if it goes over the estimate? And so Mr. Hartman and I did discuss that, and he can address that.
So obviously an important question. But that is a risk. Russell, I mean, you may have noted at the last meeting, there is some hope that we can bring it in under the estimate. But Russell, my understanding is, and we talked about this, that he estimated it conservatively, meaning on the high side, right? But when we get into this work, if for some reason we encounter something that drives the price up, that is on us. So just to understand that, meaning the settlement agreement is that we will perform the work shown on it. The amount is not the pertinent. It's relevant, so we have an idea of what we're getting into here, but it does not control anything. It's we will perform those tasks shown. That's the settlement, is we would do those things.
And so the budget is just like a regular estimate budget like we get for any project that we're doing, and it lets us know before we even entered into this agreement whether we have the funds to even address this project in the first place.
Exactly. I mean, it's on Russell.
We identified funds in our stormwater allocations under the American Rescue Plan.
Yes.
Okay.
And the same
Go
as
ahead.
it could go over, it could come in under, so that's just.
Yep.
All right.
We just have to
And I-
do the work.
Yes.
I do have another question to muddy the water.
Sure.
As you stated, we're required to do the project as stated to certain standards. Who is going to approve that work done to what standards? Russell?
Russell.
Or the landowner?
Russell. So that work's going to be done.
What if the landowner's dissatisfied with the work we do?
It's a good question. He could claim what we'll do is we'll do the work. Russell will check on the job during the work. And if it's done to our satisfaction, what our position is going to be is, hey, now we've complied with the settlement agreement. I hear what you're saying. If he says, hey, wait a minute, I don't agree with that, right? Then that could land us back in court even though it's possible, but it's, I think unless he gets an engineer to say, hey, this is substandard work, then, and we don't want it to be substandard either, right? So.
No, we don't, but I'm just trying to.
No, you can always fight, you can always fight. So he could disagree, once the work's done. But I think, I know Russell has had a meeting out there even recently with the landowner. And as far as right now, obviously the proof will be in when the work's going on and it's done. But there's a decent working relationship there, so. But that's a good question.
Okay, and I have a question, and I want to let all of these commissioners know that there's a confidentiality clause in there, section M. And it says basically that we cannot discuss it. We can't give
No,
the details.
It's a standard, sorry, just to, so you're
Okay.
clear, it's a standard provision, but Chapter 119 applies. So, and we're sitting here talking about it in a public meeting.
Yes,
The agreement's available as a
we
public record.
discussed
Anybody
it.
can,
Anybody can find out.
Yes, anybody can
We
find out.
discussed it in great detail last month.
Yeah. It's-
And that's what I had a citizen that said, well, the citizens have a right to know how this property owner's suit was resolved.
Yep.
And, if we can't discuss it. So
We can't,
should
we
that
can't.
clause be in there? Or, I mean, it goes into detail unless legally compelled to do so. So,
Again, it's a standard provision, but
Okay.
119, it says to the extent permitted by Chapter 119. So,
Okay.
I mean, I have, there's one for private, and then for public, and again, that's there. So it starts off with,
uh-huh.
Personal information.
yep,
All right, so.
but
if the-
it's
if the-
pretty weak
If the
confidentiality.
public wants to know about the settlement, then they can find out.
Yep, under
Okay.
119, they have every right
All
to get all the details they can get.
Help me out here, Mr. Attorney. If I'm correct, that's not in effect yet because it's not signed by the mayor.
True,
Mr. Poteet has signed it.
Mr. Poteet has, but we haven't.
correct,
That's
correct.
right.
We
I haven't-
haven't authorized you to sign it.
No, not yet. That's what you're supposed to do, I think. I don't know.
Yeah.
I believe
You
you're right.
approve, disapprove,
But you
whatever.
can talk about it before we do.
Yeah, let's talk about it.
Good.
Okay. So, and the hold harmless, you've got,
Yes,
you'll-
the hold harmless language is broad and
Okay,
covers it.
all right.
And that is, so you're aware, number 8 talks about that.
All right.
So,
And so everyone understands the budget, the amount. We've talked about that. We had the attachment sent to us this morning or yesterday. So we've seen that. Are we then prepared to accept that? And it's going to be funded out of the American Rescue Plan stormwater allocations. Okay. All right, then. We need a motion to accept this long time agreement. Since 2015, you've been working on it?
gosh, this is,
Just trying to think back in my head when this all started.
that's crazy. 2015, yes.
2015.
2015.
I'm gonna make a motion to approve this agreement as presented by our attorney,
Okay.
under his recommendation.
And authorize the mayor to sign.
Authorize the mayor's signature.
Okay, do we have a second?
I'll second.
Any further discussion? Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right, and that motion carries. And very good on that one.
Yay.
And that is that for the evening. Anything else? Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Walden and a second by Commissioner Brown. Any other discussion? Those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, and that motion carries. All right, we'll see y'all later.